afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our October regularly scheduled meeting. Thanks for coming out this evening. The first item on our agenda today is our report from Superintendent, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that that's working out there. Good? Okay. So we tried to do a better job tonight with the microphone, so we may have some issues, but we'll do our best to make it work. We changed the agenda up a little bit and moved my report to the beginning of the meeting. We thought back and I talked to board members over the last several meetings. There were some themes that felt like they needed to be addressed, and I wanted to share some of those with you tonight. First, one of the things that we heard was the agenda and it not being posted until the Friday before the school board meeting on Monday. We did this month, and we will continue to post that a week earlier. So I don't know the exact date, but it was the Friday prior to this past Friday that we posted a preliminary agenda. We finalized it on Friday, and we'll continue doing that moving forward, and we will try not to make any changes, especially to agenda items that we believe would have interest in the community, primarily policy. But it is a business meeting, and there are issues that come up from time to time during the week, late notice, bills that have to be paid, or something needs to be posted. But as far as the agenda items regarding policies, we'll keep that as to the preliminary agenda. So that will be posted in a week in advance to give you ample time to view that, to make decisions as to whether or not you would like to attend the meeting. Another issue was email addresses of board members. All of the email addresses were removed a year or so ago from our website. We had all email addresses, and you'd have to ask our technology staff the specifics, but it was a security issue, so they were removed. We have, though, on the website under the school board page, put a button at the top that would say contact the school board, and that would be an email that comes directly to staff at central office, who would then direct it to the specific school board member. In the last couple of meetings, there were some discussions in regards to immunity, and it has been suggested that Campbell County Schools could offer liability waivers or hold harmless agreements to protect claims, to protect against claims and allow parents the choice for the mask. Virginia is one of only 3 states that categorically refuse to enforce pre-injury liability waivers. Thus, even if an injured party previously had agreed to release a business, meaning school board, from any and all of the claims based on any negligence, the business can still be held liable for negligence. This can really only be fixed at the General Assembly level, and in June of 2020, I sent a letter to Senator Newman specifically asking for, quote, legislation that grants school divisions complete immunity, not just limited immunity as in sovereign immunity, for opening school during a pandemic, which would have allowed this board to have more flexibility and be assured that they would be covered in their insurance policy. This past General Assembly session, no legislation was adopted granting school divisions full immunity. And then one of the other issues is around critical race theory. We've stated, or this board has stated, that we do not teach it. Our curriculum is the Virginia Standards of Learning. Most of you probably know that as the SOLs. The standards in each core subject area are reviewed and revised every 5 to 7 years, primarily around every 7 years. The history and the social sciences revision process is underway now, so we are in that year. In July of 2021, this past summer, there were committees established that reviewed the standards and made recommendations. This fall, additional committees, meaning museums, historians, and so forth, will review those changes. This winter, the Department of Ed will prepare all of the revised standards. Then in July of 22, next summer, the standards will go before the State Board of Education. So all the revisions, all the changes to any history or social studies K-12 will be presented to the State Board of Education in June of '22. And immediately after that, within days of it being sent to the State Board of Education, the Board of Education will conduct regional meetings to get public comment. There will be in-person as well as electronic comments that can be sent in and be received. This is when, if you're interested in the changes to the history and social sciences curriculum, we haven't even seen that. We don't know what that is. That next spring and summer, be paying attention to the Virginia Department of Education website. And if you're interested in making comment regarding any revisions to those standards, that's when you need to do that, before the Department of Education gets those and adopts them. The new standards most likely will not take effect until probably the 2023-24 school year at the soonest, because of the processes it has to go to. This year, there were a limited number of technical changes made for the current school year. These have been reviewed extensively among our staff, and they were found to be factual and not related to CRT. There have been some questions regarding cultural competency training, which is also CRT. We have done no such training, nor have we received any guidance from the Department of Education around that. This past General Assembly session, Senate Bill 1196 did become law, requiring the training, not sensitivity training, cultural competency training. However, we have not seen anything from the Department of Education regarding that training, what the requirements are, what it might look like, nor have we seen any provision that says we must adopt what the Department of Education puts together. We haven't even seen that. So there's been some questions about our stance and what we will do with that. We haven't even seen that, so it's immature for us to even comment on exactly what we're doing. Regarding the new performance standards for teachers that is supposed to take effect next year, that I'm hearing is being pushed out around those cultural competencies, we have, again, seen nothing from the Department of Education. However, I'm not concerned necessarily about those, because in my opinion, I think our teachers already do a great job in recognizing all students and meeting their individual needs, and all that they won't need training to do what's right by individual students. So I hope that answers some of the questions around some of those topics that have been put out over the last couple of meetings.
All right, thank you, Dr. Johnson. Next item on the agenda is matters from the floor. We have a list of speakers that have contacted us ahead of the meeting, so thanks for contacting us and getting on the list. I will ask that our speakers state your name prior to speaking, your address, and please respect the 3-minute time limit. I don't want to have to interrupt anybody at the end of their what they're saying, so please keep your eye on the timer we have out back. When you hear the chime, try to wrap up what you're saying in the next 5 to 10 seconds. So, thank you very much. Ms. McClanahan, our first speaker.
Jen Fitzgerald.
Jen Fitzgerald, please.
Sorry, I was sitting all the way in the middle. Good evening. My name is Jen Fitzgerald. I live at 167 Crestfield Drive in Evington. First of all, let me commend the board for its hard work in navigating the return to regularly scheduled school this year. And I commend you for the success of the first 8 weeks. We've done well. Managing the education of our children through the pandemic has not been easy, and it's brought many, many challenges, all of which that I feel that Campbell County has met and handled very well over the past 18 months. The past year and a half of not normal schooling has affected everyone, students and teachers and parents and the community. Students and teachers returned to the classrooms with more than the usual back-to-school worries this year, and it's more than whether they should wear a mask or not. Some have family members who have died from COVID, and they're still grieving. Some have loved ones who are battling it now, and many, many have households who have been affected financially due to this pandemic. Teachers are trying to be the best teachers they can be for their students, and students are trying to get back to their sense of normalcy in a school turned upside down. One option I have thought of and I propose for consideration is an added benefit for teachers of professional one-on-one and or group counseling services. This benefit has been in place in Amherst County for the past year and has proven to be a much-needed support for many. It would also be a benefit for our students to have access to additional mental health professionals in every building. Our own school counselors already have an incredible amount of work, so additional counselors to help handle the load would be a positive. This is a time in history when we have the ability to rethink and possibly reframe education. The block schedule that we've adopted is a step in the right direction because it does offer teachers more flexibility in lesson planning, and students have the opportunities to take an extra class. But let's keep going. Let's step up and think outside the box about our learning environments. There have been suggestions made for increasing the amount of teacher work days, and I am here to also suggest that we consider student work days for our secondary schools. This would consist of students being able to utilize a half or a whole day to catch up on work that may have been missed due to quarantine time, where they could seek teacher help and they could catch up with remediation. Also, the flexibility in instructional times we would offer open labs for students. I also think dress codes need to be reevaluated. Extracurricular activities and sports need to be focused on equally and funded accordingly. We need to offer career path options such as military and apprenticeships. Foreign languages should be taught prior to the 8th grade, and art classes need to be returned to our elementary curriculums. We can accomplish all of this and more. We can do this by working together, and we can do this and keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Margaret Kidd.
Margaret Kidd, please.
All right. My name is Margaret Kidd. I live at 291 Rainbow Forest Drive. Everyone can relax because I'm not here to talk about the main three things that have been said at every single board meeting since school started. I'm here to address something far more important and urgent that will actually affect students and the quality of their education. I'm currently a senior at Brookville High School. I, along with many of my peers, have noticed the need for a solution to teacher exhaustion. The school year has created many challenges among teachers, including a shortage of substitute teachers due to increasing COVID cases, working hard to fill learning gaps from last school year, and online quarantine students, and general stress. Overall, educators are being spread too thin. Students can tell when their teachers aren't getting the care that they need, and it's starting to become alarming. Our teachers are giving up their planning periods to fill in for other teachers without substitutes. The loss of their hour and a half is detrimental to their well-being and workload. And it's starting to become evident in the classroom as well. Teachers are unable to remediate students during their planning periods and now are forced to offer before school and after school remedial hours. But that time frame is not always applicable for most students. While trying to limit learning loss from this school year, it's hard to fill in gaps from last school year without appropriate time frames. Many of my teachers have mentioned their lack of breaks during the day and how hard it's been to catch up on grading and student correspondence. I've noticed my teachers are staying later and arriving earlier to make up for their lost time, but I feel passionate about finding a better solution that will support our teachers. Our students care greatly about our teachers, and it's hard watching them struggle through this school year without the support they desire. Surrounding counties have offered a solution of shortening the school day, either by assigning more breaks and early dismissals or by shortening every school day. Roanoke County, Harrisonburg City, and Botetourt County are all examples of districts that have instilled a shortened school day in some form while still being able to meet the 990-hour requirement by Section 22.1 through 98 of the Code of Virginia. During this time, teachers would be able to catch up on work and hopefully minimize the amount of additional stress this year has brought upon teachers. A shortened school day would not only benefit the staff, but also the students, as this extra time would be appreciated to get extra work done. I hope you will greatly consider this issue, as teachers are one of the building blocks to future generations, and their well-being should be highly considered in the quality of education. I also hope that my viewpoint as a student holds enough value for you to address this issue, as I can see firsthand how impactful teachers are to the quality of my education. And then that's it.
Ms. Kidd? I said thank you. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Ian King.
Ian Keene.
Good evening. My name is Ian Keene. I'm currently a senior at Brookville High School, and I live at 221 Cattle Lane, Evington, Virginia. I have lived in Campbell County my whole life. I'm currently a senior at Brookville High School. I stand before you today to talk about school safety for myself, my teachers, my peers, and for the future generations to come. I believe we need to focus on protecting ourselves if an intruder got into one of the schools inside of Campbell County. To be more specific, a school shooter. Starting in 2018, the number of school shootings per year have been over 100, and in 2021, we currently have 79. It's just a matter of time before a shooter comes into a Campbell County school. We need to be ready, and I would like to offer 2 suggestions. I first want to discuss doors in the school building. We, as teachers and students, are told whenever you hear lockdown to turn off the lights, hide, arm yourself, and barricade the door. One problem with barricading the doors are some of the doors open outwards. If a school shooter got into the building, this would be a devastation because they can easily open the door, get into the classroom, and cause 20 to 25 casualties, a scar that everybody else will remember for life, and also you as the board will lose tons of money due to lawsuits. The second problem we have is next to most classroom doors, there are glass windows a person could easily break through and climb through. My government teacher and I were talking about this issue, and he put a little force on the window and it bent in and out of the frame. If an intruder made it into the school, this weak, thin piece of glass is the first line of defense. To add on to this, at every exit at my school, there are these heavy metal doors, but next to them, they have these huge glass panes that this podium can fit through. To me, this is the most dangerous part of our schools. And it also goes beyond its initial intent. 1, if the glass is broken, it prevents the cost of replacing and cleaning it. And 2, it can prevent robberies from occurring. Inside of our schools, there are a lot of expensive materials, not only owned by the school itself, but also the teachers. While it is said we need to maintain a safe learning environment, there are always improvements we can make to establish a safer learning environment. In conclusion, I would like to thank our school resource officers, school administration, and faculty, and this board for keeping us safe up to this point. I hope that you will take into consideration my ideas, and I look forward to speaking to you further as we continue to make our schools safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Mihir Vias.
Diaz? We're getting a fresh battery for you, so.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mihir Vyas, and I'm from the Timberlake District. Currently, I'm a junior studying at Brookville High School. I'm here to speak about the lack of substitutes throughout Campbell County and share some ideas that could possibly help fix the situation. The lack of substitutes in Campbell County is something that affects everyone, including school staff and the students. The effects of substitutes not being in the building are most directly felt by the teachers. A few weeks back in Brookville High School, there were 14 teachers that were absent from school on the same day. Normally, when teachers are absent from the school, they are replaced by substitutes. However, only 2 teachers had substitutes on that day. The teachers in the classroom on that day were forced to give up their planning period in order to substitute for other teachers. This led to multiple consequences. The first consequence of this situation is that teachers are unable to plan for the entirety of the period, and therefore teaching and learning becomes less effective. Another consequence of this situation is that it is affecting the teacher's ability to grade assignments. One of my teachers stated, quote, "Grading is one of my last priorities right now. From what I have seen at school, this day was not one-off. The lack of substitutes in the school is a common occurrence. This school year is still suffering from the remnants of COVID-19. Many teachers cannot be in school for days on end because of being quarantined. This puts much more pressure on the staff, and to alleviate some of this stress, we need more substitutes in the schools. My final point is that teachers were getting pulled out of planning so often that they eventually got compensated at $40 for every period they saw. This does not make any financial sense. At the end, the consequences trickle down and ultimately impact the students of the county. The teacher's efficiency directly relates to the students. I know there's nothing I can do about it, and only you as the board can fix it. I need your help because I, as a student, am getting affected and my learning isn't as effective as it should be. We need substitutes to sub, not teachers. The first step that we can take is uprooting the county policy where substitute teachers can work for no longer than 15 days a month. I propose that the school board either employs more substitutes by increasing their salary or employs full-time substitute teachers. Thank you for taking your time and listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Vias. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Ann Parker.
Ann Parker, please.
Good evening, everybody. How great is it to see students up here speaking, right? That's awesome. My name's Ann Parker, 615 Collington Drive, Lynchburg, Virginia, 24502. Still have 2 kids at Brookville High School. I really appreciate everything you were saying, Mr. Johnson, about the hold harmless and the other laws in place. I'd definitely like to get some resources on that from you in the future. Being in contracts as a realtor for 32 plus years, I do know that regarding liability, the more layers that you have in place to protect yourself, everyone can sue for anything. So the more layers we have of protection can only help us. So I want to bring up, you guys I'm sure are all aware that in Clark County, Nevada, the school board was publicly served with a $200 million medical malpractice lawsuit for mandates. I'll quote the gentleman who served them, "You're not nurses. We're not nurses. We're not doctors. You're not responsible for the children's health. Your focus is for our children's education and the education system." So this is a problem. This has just escalated the problem of the concern for risk and lawsuits. It's not just the concern for a parent suing over a child contracting COVID. There are much larger problems also that can come from the other directions. There's so many directions. It's so multifaceted. So obviously, you know, I've spoken about the hold harmless agreement at the last meeting, and I did email each and every one of you, including Mr. Hawkins, was CC'd in that email, just a draft that I used off of something that I signed through the hospitality industry for a hold harmless. Again, another layer of protection for Campbell County. I appreciate that Dr. Miller and Superintendent did respond as requested that your emails were received. I really appreciate that. And the hold harmless agreement does actually protect you against all liability except for what we call rogue lawsuits. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I have done countless amounts of research on this. There really are no negative results for this extra layer of of protection for the school board. And what are the positive results? You can honor the parental rights of all parents and restore those rights to us to make medical decisions for our children. You can also restore our teachers and staff's rights to make their own medical decisions. Medical freedom and informed consent are our most basic human rights, and the board does not have the power or the right to take it away for any reason. Neither does Richmond or the federal government. We ask you to do what's right and stand up for our teachers, staff, and students by approving and implementing a plan similar to a hold harmless agreement in Campbell County Schools, which we'd love to see effective January 1st of 2022. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Michael Worley.
Worley.
Good evening, School Board. My name is Michael Whirley. I live at 32 Dawn Ridge Drive and 24502 in Campbell County. I am papa to 3 children currently in Campbell County schools. I rise to support the stated mission of Campbell County School Board, which is, quote, to provide a world-class education that enables every student to choose and pursue any post-K-12 endeavor, unquote. This so that the students are preparing for a successful future, whatever that may be. We must stay focused on that mission and not allow ourselves to be distracted by a host of divisive issues that have no place in the considerations this school board should entertain that jeopardize the health and safety of our children while they're being educated. We have someone here tonight who is focused on that mission as a teacher who respects the mission of the Campbell County School Board and the authority and laws that are in place to allow it to function in a democracy. She sees that mission statement as the guiding principle with which she encounters her students every day. That is the focus we want to encourage this board and all our parents and grandparents and children to be focused on. It is incumbent on this board to instill the necessity and value of respect for our government and its laws, as our civics classes are teaching our children. If we stay focused on this mission, as the citizens of Campbell County want us to, we will set the example to our children for what respect for law and order, respect for the officials of authority, respect for each other, and respect for education should look like. The Campbell County School Board has put forth policies that I and a host of others believe are there to keep our children safe. While there are no perfect environments that accomplish this, to try as best we can to deliver this should be our highest focus. And denigration of these efforts, no matter how they are packaged, should be considered as to whether they promote the well-being of all our students or not. Your acknowledgement of your mission and your commitment to stay true to it and the laws that support it are the only things we as parents and grandparents should focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worley. Next speaker, Ms. McClanahan.
Ashley Pike.
Pike.
Hi there. So I had planned on writing out a big speech, but I left my phone at home because I work night shifts, so forgive me. My name is Ashley Pike. I reside at 2530 Rustburg, Browns Mill Road, Rustburg, Virginia. I am standing here today trying to speak out about how my children have been treated at Yellow Branch Elementary after we have applied for a religious exemption. My children have been bullied by staff members telling them that they have to wear a mask in order to get on the school bus. I have spoke with the teachers, and I'm still hearing from my daughter that she has to wear a mask in order to get on the bus. And as a single mother who is going to school at 2 different colleges, working a full-time job, and taking care of 2 children on my own, I would really appreciate if there was some way that we could figure out that my religious exemption is respected. I have made choices for my children against everybody. 2 nurses that are my parents, and a load of aunts and uncles who all work in the medical field, doing what I know is best for my children. The choices that I make, I would appreciate be respected. We do not use over-the-counter medication. We use alternatives to vaccines called homeoprophylaxis that has been around for almost 2 centuries. I would appreciate if there was another way to handle the children that have come down with COVID. When our house did come down with COVID, my son tested negative twice and was still told that he could not come back to school. He was left out of school for a whole month after negative tests. I cannot have a job and be answering the phone all the time. I really do need help from the public school system to do what is best for my children. And I've heard people say there are options to homeschool. I cannot homeschool as a single parent. I have to have a job. I need your help. Last year, whenever my children attended Yellow Branch Elementary, they were given a tablet to take home over the weekend to complete their school. This did not happen this year. Whenever we came down with COVID, it was my responsibility to reach out with the teachers, even though I could not remember the last time I had ate, the last time I had taken a shower, and I was required to contact the school board to get my kids' schoolwork together. The schoolwork was not very lenient as to the fact that I'm doing everything that I can, and so I would ask that if there is going to be implementations to help those parents, that you can do something to make it electronic or have it set up to where the nurse can contact the teacher to have that schoolwork brought to their house. Because if we're on quarantine, how am I supposed to leave my house in order to get homework for my children? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. What's up, Mr. Finance?
Michael Nagy.
Mr. Nagy.
Good evening. My name is Michael Nagy, and I live at 204 Spicer Road in Rustburg. I've come before the board tonight to give you a quick update from a teacher's viewpoint on how the school year has gone thus far. I've attended the last 3 board meetings, and I found myself at times appalled, confused, and saddened by some of the public comments. Contrary to what some in our community may think, our kids are absolutely thrilled to be back in school. The last 18 months have been hard on them, but I'm amazed every day at how resilient they are. I teach 12th grade government here at Rustburg High School. The last normal school year these seniors had was 9th grade. The disruptions they've had to go through as it pertains to their education has been hard, but they've adapted and are fighting through. My kids are curious, thoughtful, and much more engaged in politics than some want to give them credit for. We've started a new citizenship portfolio in the county for all 12th grade government students, where they are encouraged to take a deep dive into an issue of their choice and to see its different impacts at the national, state, and local levels. Whether it's getting kids registered to vote in their first election for next month, seeing them on the golf course after school at practice or football field on a Friday night, getting pep rallies back, or honoring our state champion volleyball and softball teams from back in the spring, our kids are excited to be back. The last thing I want the board to do amidst all the comments from the past few meetings is to miss that simple fact. I'd also be remiss in not taking the chance to say once again how lucky I am to work with the people that I do. Our teachers, coaches, administrators, office staff, counselors, bus drivers, and custodians are world class at what they do. And that feeling has only been reinforced after the last 2 weeks we've had here at Rustburg High School. We have been asked and forced to do things because of the global pandemic that some people forget we're still in totally differently. I have a second grader at Leesville Road and another daughter who will start kindergarten next year. There is absolutely no other place I would send my kids. Nothing in this area beats a public school education. There are a few things I'd rather not talk about to finish out my time, but I feel like they must be quickly addressed. Masks simply work. They've allowed us to safely stay in school since August of 2020. You all made the obvious correct decision in abiding by the mandate that came down from Governor Northam and Health Commissioner Dr. Oliver in August. Period. End of story. And to everyone here tonight, whether watching in person or watching at home, we do not teach critical race theory. I'm the department chairperson for the Social Studies Department here at RHS. No one teaches CRT here, no matter how often some of our representatives in D.C. or Richmond say we do. I have yet to hear someone at a board meeting be able to define what CRT is that is against it, but we don't teach it. Period. End of discussion. I'd like to thank the board for your time tonight. You all do not have an easy job, but I genuinely appreciate your support of what we do in the schools. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nagy. Next up, Mr. Flanagan.
David Gifford.
Mr. Gifford.
Hello, my name is David Gifford. I live at 285 Beasley Road. I'm here to advocate sacred values, including liberty and justice for all. Every day, our salute to the flag reminds us that we are one nation under God and that we have the mutual commitment to liberty and justice for all. In our present context, the word "and" is critical. Students and parents in Campbell County should expect both liberty and justice. My concern, however, is that some people do not always appreciate the word "and." Parents who educate their children in a school that does not have a mask mandate can experience liberty, and parents who receive the educational funding that their citizenship deserves can experience justice. However, enjoying both liberty and justice during a mask mandate is only possible under very limited conditions. One way to experience liberty is to drink science's Kool-Aid. In March of 2020, we were sent home from school for 2 to 3 weeks to flatten the curve. At first, science said that masks were not necessary, but it later claimed that they were. The explanation for this reversal was that science only told us we didn't need masks so that healthcare workers could get them first. Maybe you like to be manipulated, but to me, liberty and justice for all demands that science doesn't change. Science also said that those who received the vaccine would not need masks, but many locations now require both. Science is flip-flopping, and when it suggested that the curve could be adequately flattened in 2 to 3 weeks, it was either naive or serving us Kool-Aid. Another way to enjoy liberty during a mask mandate is to think that masks are a blessing from God-ordained leaders. If this is valid, why are mask mandates coming from the same party that advocates abortion? It is absurd to exalt a woman's right to change her procreational decision above a child's right to life when we can't recognize a person's right to refuse a vaccine if it is their health at risk. The highest law is the Constitution, and it guarantees both life and the free exercise of religion. A family of faith that chooses private or homeschool should not be robbed of their fair share of the government's educational budget. If God ordains all leaders, he also caused America's founders to place the Constitution above every other law. Surprisingly, another way to enjoy liberty during a mask and even a vaccine mandate is to follow Jesus. On the cross, he cried out, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" But in his heart, he knew that he would one day overturn the kingdoms of this world. The cross was painful, but Jesus did not drink the Kool-Aid, abort his plan to save us, or summon his mighty angels. He believed Isaiah's prophecy, and by his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many, for he will bear their wrongdoings. If Jesus were here today, he might wear a mask and get a vaccine so that we wouldn't have to. The next time we pledge one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, let us remember that policies like America only prosper when they are under God.
Thank you, Mr. Gifford. Flanagan, next speaker, please.
Eve Reiner.
Reiner.
My name is Eve Reinert. I live at 582 Village Highway, Rustburg, Virginia. Witnessing these meetings in the past, there has been no discussion among the board or with the public. When we come to ask questions or to raise issues, we expect an answer. If there is to be no interaction with us, then I ask that these issues raised become a matter of, quote, old business, end quote, on the next month's agenda in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, so that we can know where the board stands on those issues. Many in Campbell County still want to see the historic 1919 Rustburg High School building saved. When petitions were made earlier, the decision shared was that discussion was going on with contractors, and more than likely it would have to be demolished. Reviewing the schematic of the plan for the new Rustburg Middle School overlaid with the existing building in dotted lines, the historic 1919 Rustburg High School footprint is not needed for building or parking lot space. It could be saved. In this time of Black Lives Matter and critical race theory dividing the nation along racial lines, this historic 1919 building has seen generations of Rustburg students successfully go through integration in the 1960s and is a bedrock of our community. It should be saved, as has been the training school for the African American community that has had numerous high-level monies donated by large corporations to renovate. Why save one school and not the other? Our community has a historic jail and historic courthouse. This historic school building is touted as one of the oldest in Campbell County. The monies planned for its demolition could be redirected to close the back of it when the walkway that is attaching it to the existing Rustburg Middle School is removed. The architecture of both the historic 1919 Rustburg High School and the newly built bricked Rustburg Middle School complement each other. It could serve as a museum to all Rustburg High School trophies, yearbooks, and other memorabilia, or as a band building or anything that would serve the schools and the community well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reiner. Next up, Ms. McClanahan.
Lindsay Sharman.
Sharman?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Sharman. I live at 441 Winding Way Road. It's my 7th year teaching at Brookville High School. I'm a Brookville High School alumni and Campbell County resident. My main concern tonight is to ask you to consider adding more teacher work days to our scheduled student days and not tacking them on to June. Currently, there are no pre-planned teacher work days, and to ask you to rally more substitutes. There are not enough substitutes to cover one school. I've spoken to many coworkers and we can all agree this is the hardest school year in our tenure. Our social emotional learning team polled our faculty. 48% said the primary concern right now is managing the total workload, and 46% said I sometimes feel additional stress that frequently overwhelms me. Our administration in our building is amazing and keeps a positive, safe, and supported atmosphere, but teacher workdays are past our admin and into the hands of our school board members. Transition to a block schedule looks very different this year than last year. 90 minutes must have an activity, something to engage students and be hands-on every day. It's not just taking 2 previous lessons and putting them together. Some teachers have brand new classes they've never taught before. Last year we had 10 or less students in our classroom daily. Work was expected to be virtual due to mitigation and done independently at any time in case of a shutdown or long absence. Students' emotional health was our top concern. The curriculum was pared down and we moved very fast to get things in when we saw students 2 days a week. Last year's work, though thorough and helpful, is not complete. I am currently working on materials day to day and cannot get ahead. This year our classrooms are packed in the upper 20s and some lower 30s. We have full curriculum and an entirely different set of obstacles while filling in learning gaps in the previous year, with SEL still our top priority. 90-minute planning sounds like a long time, but with 3 classes to prepare for and more to be done during planning, it goes very quick. And that is if we get a planning period due to the limited number of substitutes. We don't need professional development, we need time to plan. Teachers are at their breaking point and it's not sustainable. According to my math, I see that we are 26 days over the minimum required by the VDOE. There could be 1 teacher workday added per month without taking away the required seat time from the VDOE. I'm not asking you to take away instructional time, but add to our time more wisely to support our teachers. In addition, I'd like to thank you for upholding the mask mandate in our schools handed down from the VDOE. Besides students in our schools, there are many faculty and staff that make the day run. Without teachers, there isn't a school day. In our schools, there are pregnant teachers, faculty who take care of elderly parents, and staff who have immune-compromised family members to care for. Recently, Campbell County school employees were granted COVID sick days, but only if we can prove it's work-related exposure. Planning to be absent for 10 days is not easy, and finding substitutes feels impossible. I can promise parents that when you enter my classroom this year, you'll see students doing group activities, laughing with friends, and involved in their sports and clubs. I hope that the passion that Campbell County residents have displayed in the previous school board meetings can be funneled into solutions for our short-staffed bus drivers, teacher pay to match inflation, and our overworked school nurses in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharman. Next up, Mr. McClanahan.
Phil Stevens.
Stevens.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for letting me come. My name's Phil Stevens, and I get to be pastor of a fantastic church, Windfall Baptist Church. Thank you. Yes, there you are. And I get to live in the Rustburg district. My son is 6 years old, and he got in trouble in school the other day, and I asked him what happened at school, and his answer was, I love blue, Dad. And that was a problem for me because it didn't answer my question. It's kind of cute and funny when a 6-year-old does it, but when the past several months, many questions have come to this board, and it doesn't feel like any of these questions get adequately answered. I would love it. I would absolutely love it if we could all just be on the same page. I understand that there's no CRT in these. At least that's what I'm being told. Why not just vote on it? Why not just come together, and that way as elected officials, we would all know. If you've all done that before, I have not heard it in the past several months, and it would be fantastic if each and every one of you just decided, yes, we are against that, especially now with this new information that our superintendent has given to us, that if these new curriculums are coming out and now it's going to be up for review, we would love to be able to trust every single one of you to know that this is where you stand and this is where we are going as the schools go. Excuse me. Because of the silence, we're just wondering, I think, as families and concerned parents and things like that, are there issues that you will stand up to confront on just a regular basis? How bad does the issue have to get before we expect a response? What will it take for you to take a stand? In my life, I've learned that confronting issues before they get into the school is a lot better fight than the one that's trying to get it out of the school. The leadership or the lack of in this board is currently providing may have worked in the past, but moving forward, we do need leadership that is not afraid to confront issues detrimental to our children. Sweeping them under the rug is not dealing with it. If this board holds to the same philosophy that the Democratic nominee for governor holds, that, and I quote, I don't think parents should tell the schools what they should teach, then our schools and children will be indoctrinated with an anti-God, anti-life, and anti-patriotic value that will further divide our country. Leadership is not rubber stamping everything that comes down from Richmond, and I know that you don't do that. I'm not actually even saying that you do. But true leadership is standing on the wall on behalf of parents and the best interest of our children, and being a line of defense against horrible policies. We have looked to this board for leadership, we have looked for information, and we have gotten silence. Parents and citizens have only grown more frustrated and angrier because of the concerns have not been heard and not been answered. It is due to this lack of leadership that I am running for the Rustburg district seat as a write-in candidate to provide leadership for parents that expect it and our schools deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. McClanahan, next speaker.
Crystal Coleman.
Coleman.
Good evening. I'm Crystal Coleman from Alta Vista, Virginia. First, let me say congratulations to our law enforcement for Police Appreciation Week. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And next, let's play Ponder This. For months, Black Lives Matter and Antifa ravaged and ripped apart American cities and businesses. It was proven that Representative Eric Stallwell had relationships with a known Chinese spy, yet still remains on the House Intelligence Committee. Representative Maxine Waters publicly incites for political violence against anyone opposing the Democratic agenda. Senator Rand Paul and his wife are accosted and chased down the street by Black Lives Matter. Senator Sinema is accosted by leftist activists in the bathroom, in the plane, at the airport. The New York Times conveniently exaggerates the child COVID-19 hospitalizations by over 90%. And Democrat socialist Rashida Tlaib admits she only wears a mask when no cameras are around. And we, the people who attend school board meetings to protect our children, are to have the FBI summoned against us by an attorney general whose son-in-law co-founded Panorama Education, a company that has already built millions of dollars from 25% of American schools to push, you guessed it, critical race theory. Let me remind you that we own these schools. Our tax dollars have paid these schools, not the government. We do not co-parent with the government. Why do we appear so angry? Because except for comments that were made this evening, we have heard nothing but useless canned statements. No circle backs from complaints and issues we have communicated. At the August board meeting, I presented 7 specific questions, some of which you have chosen your vocabulary carefully to talk about, but really didn't provide how-to specifics. To simply say you're not doing it means nothing if you don't know what it is. Do you know what woke kindergarten is? Did you know that Virginia Tech Professor Lane apologized to her students for her being white? Did you know that the Virginia Department of Education 9/11 sensitivity training resource told teachers to reject American exceptionalism? Did you know that pedophilia and pornography were exposed in Fairfax County library books? Did you know that American teachers are being asked by their unions to log students' vaccination status and the status of their parents? Did you know a UCLA professor is suspended for not grading black students more leniently? Did you know that gifted and talented programs are now considered a threat to equity? Let me say thank you to the National School Board Association and their contemptible collusion with Joe Biden's regime to send the FBI after parents. It's the most motivating thing you could have done for us. And by the way, NASCAR fans at Talladega did not shout, "Let's go, Brandon."
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. And next speaker, please.
Rusty Elliott.
Mr. Elliott.
Good evening. My name's Rusty Elliott, 251 Stepping Stone Road, Concord District. I'm going to talk on something a little bit different tonight. Our First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress of grievances. I quoted this because of a growing concern that I have of this board and its perceived infringements on this cherished right. At the last meeting at Yellow Branch, 2 individuals stood in the doorway blocking citizens from addressing their representatives. The capacity posted for that room far exceeded the number of people allowed inside. The last meeting was held here at Rustburg High, and for that we thank you for the change of venue. However, this last meeting, a very concerning comment was made after a citizen said that every one of you are cowards. Mr. Brandt, you pointed at him and stated, and I quote, "He ought to be locked up." I was sitting next to that individual, and he did nothing to deserve that kind of remark or threat. Is it the board's belief that citizens should be locked up for speaking their mind? There is already a strong sense of a lack of transparency within the community concerning the school board. So what are we the people to think when an elected representative says someone should be locked up for speaking their mind? Mr. Brandt, I would contend that you overstepped your bounds and you violated your oath. Constitution of Virginia, Article 1, Bill of Rights, Section 3, that government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community of all various modes and forms of government that is best, which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety and is most effectually secured against the danger of maladministration, and whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to these purposes, a majority of the community hath an indubitable, inalienable, and indefeasible right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such a manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public weal. That should have never happened. It's on video. Y'all aired it, and multiple people took clips of it. I'd really like to have an answer to that one.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Mr. Whitehead, next speaker, please.
Wes Gardner.
Mr. Gardner.
Good evening. I'm glad to see that we're still in this location, as I don't foresee this crowd getting any smaller in the future. Last month, we heard from a number of parents and witnessed a great deal of support for those parents' wishes for their children's education. Once again, these parents were ignored and a pre-written response was read. Since that meeting, we've all heard the comment from Terry McAuliffe about how he believes parents shouldn't be telling schools what to teach. Well, I'm here to tell you that Terry is wrong. His views on my children's education are wrong. And if any of you believe that he's right, you're wrong. But some have made it very clear where they stand. You may not have signed up to play politics, but for anyone who hasn't figured it out yet, parents aren't going to sit on the sidelines any longer and watch politics be played with their children. This is where Campbell County should be standing with the parents instead of kneeling with Richmond. Mr. Brandt, you're my representative. I have no doubt that you are likely the longest sitting representative on this board. Every year, it seems, every several years, many times you run unopposed. Now, my thoughts on that are people either like the job you're doing or people have been apathetic to the position you hold. I can relate with those people. I was one of them. But after last month's meeting, there was something else that I have no doubts on, and that's where you stand. And I knew that when I saw you on video point to a grandparent in the crowd, and you stated he should be locked up. think it's just coincidence that somebody else also saw that. But the reason that you did that, I have to assume, is because he held beliefs that you didn't hold, but it seemed like everyone else in the room did. Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." So, I want to leave you with this. The days of an easy term on the school board are gone. You can thank Richmond for that. The days of parents not being vocal and involved in their children's education are gone. You can thank Richmond for that one too. The days of running unopposed in Sunburst District are gone. And you can thank me for that one.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Cunningham, next speaker, please.
Jackie Mendez.
Ms. Mendez.
I don't know. That was a great speech. That was great. Well, good evening. My name is Jacqueline Mendez, and I live in Evington, Virginia. I'm a resident of Campbell County. My concern tonight is the public education is taking our future leaders, our kids. The curriculum outlined by the Virginia Board of Education is a guide to cheapen our values of family, community, and civic duty. We have learned from other parents that books containing pornography, bisexual stories, vilification of American values have been identified by parents in the Commonwealth. Books such as Lawn Boy and Genderqueer contain depictions of pedophilia, homosexual leanings, and pornography. Books all found in the Virginia Public School libraries. Ask who buys these books for our schools? Who makes the decision? Find out. Under the pretext of equity, diversity, and inclusion, buzzwords for critical race theory, dictated by Richmond and D.C., all driven by radical thinkers who push that our past is terrible and that our children have no future. Critical race theory states whites are racist and blacks are victims. Our children are becoming disengaged in their communities, and they are being psychologically tortured. No wonder we are seeing greater amounts of child depression and suicide. And as a member of a protected group, I'm a Hispanic. 98% of us do not want to be referred as Latinx. No way. We object that label and concept to make Hispanics part of the greater evil of critical race theory's definition of diversity. It's all BS. Parents have seen what's behind the curtain. Parents and community members will now join the process, and we will not be kept out of our children's education. Parents, take a look at the school curricula. Ask administrators if the 1619 project is used in teaching civics. Demand to see the materials the school is using. Meet with teachers, the principal, become an activist for transparency. You have every right to ask what is being taught to your child. There are underlying principles. These are the underlying principles of our great nation. And know this. 3 members of the Campbell County are running for school board. Ann Parker in the Timberlake District, Dean Moore in the Brookneal, and Philip Stevens in Rustburg. Get out and vote, and vote. The numbers are on our side, and the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez. Mr. McClanahan, last speaker.
Eric Roughton.
Mr. Roughton.
Good evening. Forgive me if I ramble. I am a lot more nervous than I anticipated. My name's Eric Roughton. I'm from Rustburg. I was born here, grew up here, and my daughter graduated from Rustburg as a special ed student. I've attended a few meetings. I haven't spoken. I wanted to see what was actually going on, what's being voiced on social media, what the news is saying. I can go see for myself. I've noticed some things. Basic communication skills. I've noticed there's been a lot less stress in the room since we've moved the location. Thank you for that. That was your duty as public servants. You had a request, there was a need, and you met it. You should feel good for that. Let's build on that. It has led to, hopefully, an improved environment in the room. As public servants and the responsibility you take on in that role, the authority belongs to the people, and it is delegated, handed to you temporarily. To have someone that we have honored with that position, to tell an old man he should be locked up simply because he got a little vocal was very disturbing. As, you know, a guy just here to see what's going on. That was bad, man. It's going to be hard to pay for that one politically. So I'm supporting some candidates back there. When communicating with people, there's the Girard method and the Dale Carnegie method, public speaking. Good communication skills require on being as honest as you can be, reading as little as you can, and doing effective Q&A skills. We answered some questions today that were answered last time. Thank you for that. But you're not quite hearing what they're saying on some things as far as critical race. They know it might not be hardcore and trained in Campbell County right now. They just want you to make a blanket public political statement that if it tries to get implemented anymore or in any sort of fashion, you will automatically take a stand against it. That's all they want you to do. If it comes here, we will not tolerate it. And why will we not tolerate it? Because our authority is based locally. The seat of authority is local, and then the state, and then the federal is last. In 1979, Jimmy Carter formed the Department of Education by gathering together smaller departments, and our state of education has been on decline ever since. We need to restore that authority to the local values that our Constitution is based on, local and state authority, and it is a critical component of preserving our republic, students. We're a republic. I would urge any students here to go on PragerU and look up the difference between a democracy and a republic, and I think you'll find that it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Roughton. This concludes our matters from the floor segment. So I appreciate everybody coming out to speak tonight. And we'll move on for approval of the minutes. I have a motion on approval of the minutes for the last meeting, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion on the floor. Can we get a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next up, we have payment of the bills. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of payment of the bills. Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next up is acceptance of donations. Ms. McClanahan?
Tonight you have 9 donations for your approval that were listed in advance of the meeting. Unless you have any specific questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of acceptance of donations. Do we have any further comment? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next we have consideration of request for supplemental appropriations. Ms. McClanahan?
Tonight, you have 3 applicants being considered for approval as a non-resident tuition student. Principals have already endorsed them as acceptable, and your approval is requested.
Okay, my apologies, I skipped non-resident tuition. Thank you, Ms. McClanahan. All right, do we have a motion in regards to non-resident tuition?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How are we in line with last year's numbers?
This time last year, we had 329.
Pretty close, okay. Thank you.
Okay, any further comment, discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we have a request for supplemental appropriations. Ms. McClanahan?
Tonight, you have 9 supplemental appropriations listed in advance of the meeting on board docs. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion in regards to supplemental appropriations? Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Secondary reading of revised policies. Mr. Sisk?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tonight you have 2 policies for second reading, DJFB purchasing and GAA staff time schedules. If there are no questions, I ask that you approve those 2 policy changes.
Why do you feel they changed the purchase?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Why do you feel they wanted to change the purchasing policy? Just to up the values?
I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Why do you feel that they changed the purchasing policy?
I just believe that we're just aligning with state guidelines as to our purchasing.
But I mean, no idea why they felt it needed to be changed?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Did we have a motion in regards to the revised policy second reading?
Motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion in regards to the policies? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have consideration for religious exemptions. Mr. Sisk?
Yes, sir. Tonight we have seven folks before us for religious exemption or release from compulsory attendance. These folks have filed the proper paperwork, and I ask that you approve those.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. Any further questions, concerns, comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisk. Okay, we are at the matters from the board portion of the meeting. Start on my left, Mr. Jones. Do you have anything tonight?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First, some of the speakers acknowledged the stress and the strain that a lot of our teachers are under throughout the county from all their responsibilities and added duties, and just certainly express thanks to each and every one of them for their commitment to help our kids do the very best they can. I got quite a few emails back from individuals expressing their sincere appreciation for the workday we provided them last week. Just basically said it just gave them a chance to catch up. Said they felt like they'd been behind all year, and it just gave them a chance to catch up, get organized, communicate with parents. So I think that was a valuable day, and I think it was a day well used. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. In 20 years or more, I've sat at school board meetings looking out over the audience, who is composed of our administrators, a few teachers, and maybe a parent or two of a child that may be there for discipline appeal. We've done some great things over 20 years. Some of our most recognized or memorable meetings, we recognize all the valedictorians and salutatorians from each high school each year. They work their rear end off throughout the school years. Outstanding individuals with outstanding futures, and we recognize them, and there's nobody in the audience. We have academic scholarship and just individual and team awards that we recognize. It's a great event. It's a great accomplishment. People work their rear ends off. We recognize them at school board meetings. There is no one in the audience. Teachers, administrators achieve regional, state, national awards. We recognize them. School board meetings. There is no one in the audience. We've received monies, funds from people that work to get donations and contributions from businesses and individuals in our county and our region. And they make these significant donations to our school. Quite an achievement, quite a feat. No one in the audience to recognize it. Some of our most enjoyable meetings when we have presentations from our robotics teams, science teams, award winners that just amaze you to see what they've accomplished. There's no one in the audience to see it. Maybe you'll be here in January when we build our budget. Maybe you'll be here when we build our budget to get the funding.
Excuse me, Mr. Jones, I'd ask order in the meeting, please.
Maybe you'll be here in January when we build our budget to get the funding we need to raise our teacher salaries above the median of the surrounding counties. We need to raise our teachers' salaries above the bottom of the local counties we compete against to retain them. We try. We try. Okay. We...
Excuse me, this order, we're going to take a recess if we can't regain order in the meeting, please. We had a time for speakers, and now please allow board members to respond. Thank you. Mr. Brandt.
That's
Mr.
all,
Jones,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Wright, come in.
Okay, I reached out to my principals over the past couple of days to see what exciting things were happening in our schools. I heard back from Ms. White at Brookville High, and she said that they were celebrating on Friday, they celebrated Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Everyone showed up wearing pink, and the way she phrased it was the school spirit associated with this was bubbling. They are also having penny wars between classes to support the SCA. If they meet their goals, they will have several teachers and administrators who will get pied in the face at the pep rally. Homecoming game is October 22nd against Amherst. They'll have a spirit week leading up to that. Students will decorate hallways like they've been able to in the past. She did add in here a phrase that says amidst all of the tough things associated with coming back to school and getting into a routine while still in the midst of a pandemic and having COVID cases still out there, our students are handling it with grace and resilience. Our teachers and staff have gone above and beyond to support our students, and it is showing in our building. Students are embracing this new normal and are working hard to create the best high school experience they can. And I was very glad to hear that, because I know it's been hard on both our students and our faculty and staff. Speaking of faculty, staff, and students, Erin Scott, one of our teachers at Brookville, is here tonight with your political science club. A few today. So, well, thank you for coming out, and thank you to the students who spoke earlier. One of the students thanked the SROs, and I would just like to basically echo that and thank the SROs for all they do in our buildings on a daily basis and for being here tonight as well. The high school drama club drama department is also working on the Little Shop of Horrors. It will be October 22nd, 28th, and 30th at 7 p.m. and October 31st at 2 p.m. Tickets can be purchased online. Also, the bands, I had the chance on September 28th to go to the Throwdown of A-Town, where all of the county bands came together for an evening of basically showing their performance, as well as Gretna, so all 4 bands plus Gretna. It was great to see the bands out there performing again. That was something that was lost last year, and I'm glad to see that it was back. I know all of our bands have been doing wonderful things. I've seen posts about several first and second places at different competitions across all 4 bands. I've heard that chorus is doing as great. They just aren't in the middle of marching band season, so they're not out there quite as much as the bands are right now. Let's see here. For Tomahawk, they are going to do a Penny Wars as well the last week of October. I believe it was administration was getting slimed if they reached $2,000. That's being held by the PTO to support their various items. I also saw today where Tomahawk and Leesville Road were both, they both won a Facebook voting contest by All Washed Up for playground cleanings. That was announced about 2 hours before the meeting, so I'm not sure the schools even know it's happened yet. And one of the administrators at one of the schools also strongly thanked us for the workday. I received multiple emails from assorted staff doing that as well, and I do definitely support more work days for staff so that they can have time to breathe and gather their thoughts and move forward for the best possible atmosphere for our students. I think that's very important, and that's a simple way for us to be able to show them how much we care. And I believe that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Riper. Mr. Brand.
While we're thinking of Brookville High School, I think you left there one thing, the sign out front of the school, there at Timberlake Road, it's been there for many, many, many years. It's going to soon be replaced with a digital sign, and I think horticulture is going to help that area also. So I think that is very good, and I would concur with you on the days for the teachers during this very tough times. So that's all I have.
Well, Mr. Brand, I also forgot to mention that Jalen Pannell, one of the students at Brookville, had a very nice write-up in the paper on Friday, I believe. He's a 10th grader at Brookville about his sports struggles and everything he had gone through, and I mean, just what he's gone through and what he's now accomplishing is an inspiration.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Thank
Thank you. So I talked to both of principals, William Campbell Combined School and Brookneal Elementary School, and it's a tough year. Many ways, they express that it's harder than last year. And teachers are trying to rise to the occasion, but struggling with kids all over the map on where they are from what they missed out on last year or what they were able to continue to do last year. Still wrestling a little bit with the broadband availability down there. Mr. Bennett's biggest concern are his first through third graders, and I told him I would share that those are such fundamental years, and we're going to have to really stay on top of that and look for ways to address that. I too got several comments about the appreciation of the teacher workday that meant a lot to the teachers. I don't know how our calendar can work to get more of those, but I'd like to direct the administration to see if there's a way we can get a couple of more of those in throughout the school year, one way or the other. I think it was appreciated. I think it was a morale booster, and this year we need some morale boosters. So I'd like that to be addressed. On a upbeat note, and I don't know where they are right now, but William Campbell had our golf team in the state championship today, so we're proud of our kids down there. I appreciate all the speakers who came. I always enjoy hearing students speak, and you guys did a good job. Remember eye contact, it's important. Good job. I know there's a lot of anger out there, a lot of frustration. I know you want this to be an open dialogue. A board meeting is not meant to be an open dialogue. You get the opportunity to speak. We listen. If you want dialogue, call your representative. That's what you do. This isn't a town. This isn't a town. Call all. Then call the other one.
Order again, please. Let Mr. Miller finish speaking, please. Thank you.
This isn't a town hall. We're not going to do that. But you're welcome to call each individual member and hear their point of view. I hear your frustration about or worry or concerned about CRT. I spent an hour and a half with the instructional specialist and the assistant superintendent to go over the whole curriculum, the whole history curriculum. We went over all the edits. There was nothing in there that remotely resembled what I would consider CRT. If that comes down the pike, I will oppose that. I hope that meets your needs, Mr. Stevens. I will oppose that. I will not intervene with how history is taught. History is history, and we have good, bad, and ugly history. It needs to be taught. The way it is right now, it is taught that way. I will not question our teachers, how they teach that history, but I will oppose anything that resembles CRT. I know there's a lot of anger. Somebody doesn't want me to win. Somebody hates me enough that they want to pull up my signs down in Brookneal, my campaign signs. I don't know who that is, but if you know who that is, it's pretty low, and I don't appreciate it. And that's not a lecture. That's all I have.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Maddox.
Excuse me, I'll be short and sweet. September 24th, Alta Vista had their homecoming game with William Campbell. And the town provided the kids with the parade. They rode in convertibles in the back of trucks. And at halftime, Ashton Gowen and Christopher Farmer were chosen as king and queen. What makes this night so special is they were both special needs kids. And I want to say thank you to the parents of those seniors. Y'all are doing something right. And also, my last thing, Special Ed Committee does a truck or treat at Brookville High School every year. If you've never been out to it, you need to come see it. It's pretty amazing. It's October the 30th at 8 o'clock at Brookville High School. The community steps up, the kids have a blast, and it's a great day. And also, Rustburg Middle, I think, is looking amazing. I hope we're on schedule. That's all I've got.
Ms. Maddox. Mr. Epperson.
Yeah, I too would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and speaking your mind, and it's your right to say what you feel, and we appreciate you coming out. In particular, I'd like to thank the students that spoke tonight. Thank you. You guys did a great job, and we appreciate you coming out and addressing the board as well. I too would like to pay a big thank you to the administration, the teachers, the staff, and all support for everything you've done this year. And it's been a tough year, and believe me, it doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate all the effort in pushing through very, very difficult times. And I just hope you guys can enjoy a nice long weekend and just kind of get regrouped. And it's still a lot of year left, but at least give you a chance to take a breath and get ready for the push down to the finish line. So thanks a lot. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. I had a couple of emails from a couple of our principals, appreciative of our teacher work day, so very well deserved, and we'll try to see what we can do to incorporate some additional time in that regard going forward. Also, last Friday night, the state softball champions were recognized at the football game, so congratulations to that team. And we had 57 students that were accepted into the National Honor Society, so that's a great achievement. Congratulations to those students. And lastly, Catherine So, our athletic trainer, had a great article written up in the paper for her, so congratulations. And, appreciate all of her hard work and good recognition on her behalf there. So over at the middle school, again, appreciation for the teacher work day. Did also mention the substitute coverage being a challenge, so we'll see what we can do to look into that and improve that situation. And Ms. Cundiff did mention the open house at the middle school a couple weeks ago, which my wife and I attended, and it was a great turnout there, and appreciate everybody coming out to that and taking a walk around the school. That was a great day, great event. And they are also doing a service project for the Allen B. Pearson Cancer Center, preparing care bags, so it's a great community event that school is on taking there. So, in regards to the mask policy, or the mask requirement, we have heard your concerns. And if you recall, up until August 12th, the board was in favor of student and parent choice until the CDC changed their guidelines. We got with our legal representation, our attorneys, to look into that, explore options we could take and options that we couldn't take. And we have a letter from our attorney. It's posted on board docs as an attachment to the agenda. And there's also a hard copy of the letter. You can pick one up on your way out from the meeting. It should be out at the front door there. But in summary, just to hit a couple of highlights from our attorney, the health commissioner placed an order in place, but where the rubber really hit the road, so to speak, was the 2021 special session, Virginia General Assembly enacted Senate Bill 1303. It requires that the instruction be provided to the maximum extent practicable to apply mitigation strategies provided by the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That was CDC changed those guidelines on August 4th and recommended universal indoor masking for all students, staff, and teachers. So we are bound by that law, may not like the law, and I don't like not only that law, but some other laws that are on the books, but we are bound by that law. The General Assembly passed it, and only they can change it. I'm sorry, excuse me. The school board cannot change the law. If the school board were to fail to follow the law, each member could be held criminally liable. The public school system could be sued for tens of millions of dollars. Our insurance company will not cover those damages, and that would mean taxpayers in Campbell County would have to pay more taxes to cover those potential lawsuits. So those are some of the things we wrestled with as a board, and that's how we ended up where we are. And I just want to bring that to the attention of everyone and share that information with you. And again, we've got that letter out by the door, and it is on the agenda for you to read in detail for yourself. So trying to be transparent in that matter and share with you the information we have and how we came to that decision. I also made 2 pages of notes from our speakers tonight, and thank you for the speakers coming out. We appreciate you expressing your thoughts, your concerns. That's the point for the meetings. Somebody mentioned Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure. We do go by whose procedures in the business meeting. We listen to you, take notes. I'm concerned about concerns you folks bring before the board, and I wanted to follow up on a few things that we heard tonight. I'm not going to read, well, I am going to read, but it's not a prepared statement. But I'll have you note that the prepared statement that we read, or that I read, was on behalf of the board. That's why it was a prepared statement, because we had to get feedback from all board members to form the statement. But each time we stated that we were against critical race theory, against student choice of bathrooms, and we stated the policy on masks, how that was the law, and we had to abide by that law. So looking back at some of the earlier comments from the speakers, there was a comment made about dress codes. We'll take a look. A lot of these I'm going to follow with folks on, but we'll take a look at what some concerns may be in regards to dress codes. Teacher exhaustion and lack of substitutes. I hear you. I think the board hears you. The teacher workday was greatly appreciated, and we'll see what we can do to take that further and try to provide our teachers with some relief. The lack of substitutes, we'll take a look at that. I mentioned Ms. Cundiff, principal at Rustburg Elementary, her middle school, shared that information with me as well, so we'll see what we can do in regard to beefing up our substitute program and providing better relief for our teachers as needed. Safety in schools. I think one of our student speakers brought that up. That's a very important topic. We've wrestled with that in years past. Because of that concern, we've got a resource officer at every one of our schools, and we've taken great measure on mitigations that we put in place at the front doors, locking doors, how the schools are laid out to deter someone from coming to those schools that's not welcome or that may mean harm to our students or our teachers. But we'll continue to keep that safety concern in mind and see what we can do to further improve on that. We spoke to the hold harmless agreement. We'll continue to look into that with our attorneys, make sure we take full advantage of that as applicable. Dr. Johnson also spoke to that earlier. A couple of comments on folks for masks. It's a heated discussion. A lot of people are for masks. A lot of people are against masks. I try as a member of the board to do what I think is best, first and foremost for our students, for our teachers, for our staff. We want to keep everybody safe. We recognize that it's not comfortable. At my place of employment, we have a mask policy. I don't particularly like it myself, but when I go into work, I wear a mask because that's the policy. So we have to, as a civil society, follow our laws and our policies that are put in place, whether it's at school, whether it's at work. We try to do what's right by our students, by our teachers, by our staff. We're not trying to make anybody uncomfortable. We're not trying to infringe on anybody's religious or medical concerns. We try to take those into account, please know that. Funding for homeschoolers, that's come up in the past. We'll take a look at that. I'm not sure if we can do a whole lot there, but I did jot that down as a concern we had tonight as well. The 1919 Rustburg Middle School building, that's been discussed in previous meetings. We have discussed it at our board meetings. I hear what folks are saying. I understand the connection with that building. It is a historic building. Whether we can do anything to save that building or not at this point is still unknown, but right now we're on the path on taking that building down as we go into next year. But I'll jot that down and check into that to see if anything can be done, but right now we're on the path in the opposite direction there, unfortunately. So, FBI against citizens voicing their concerns at meetings. I think I can speak for myself and the board as well. We are not on board with that agenda. Please don't lump the school board in with everything you see on the news. I came home from work today and I heard someone on the radio say school boards are doing this and school boards are doing that. Some boards may be doing some things, but it's not all school boards. So be careful not to lump your Campbell County School Board in with everything you hear on the news. It's not factual. We all try to listen to our constituents, take your concerns, keep those in mind when we make decisions about policies, about our teachers, our students, our facilities. We just don't go with the flow on whatever's happening in the news and follow that along. Heard several folks say they were thankful for the location change. Thank you for that feedback. We try to take action where we can in regards like that. Same thing with the emails. We have a available tool for you to reach out for us via email as needed. There's some discussion about silence, sweeping things under the rug. I personally don't do that. I don't think most of our board members do that. We do carry out the meetings in a formal manner. We hear your concerns, and then at the matters of the board section, we try to respond to those concerns. And sometimes it may take the following meeting for us to go and dig into some information and find that out for you and then respond about a month later. It draws it out sometimes. We are listening. We're not sweeping things under the rug. I'm not ignoring what you folks are saying. We're writing that down and trying to follow up with you as best we can. I can say that every phone call I've gotten in my past 4 years in office, I've returned every call. I'm delayed. I will admit that. Sometimes it's a few days before I get back to some folks, but I think myself and the other board members do a pretty good job of that. Mr. McCullough's statement on parents and their involvement in the school curriculum, I'm not in agreement with. I'll leave that up to him to defend that statement. But thank you guys for coming out, and we value your opinions. And I think parents definitely have a right. And the curriculum, and as Dr. Johnson talked to earlier in the meeting, there will be upcoming meetings about some curriculum zone updates in our history curriculum. And we'll try to keep you appraised of that. And you're welcome to come out to those meetings and voice your concerns. There's a comment about not playing politics with our kids. I don't play politics with our kids, with our teachers, and I'm not going to campaign, but I'm running as an independent because I don't believe politics belongs in our schools. We're here for our students and for our teachers and to educate our students in Campbell County and prepare them for whatever comes next, be it a job, a college education, or so forth. So I think that's what I'm here for anyway. So I agree. There's no room for politics with our kids. And if you have that impression of me, I'd like to have a discussion with you because I don't agree with that. Somebody said you're taking an easy term on the school board. I think This has been my first and only term the past 4 years, and I will admit the first year or two was kind of in cruise control, but I tell you the last 2 years have been anything but easy with the pandemic. Trying to keep kids in school, contact tracing. I've gotten feedback. It's worn on our teachers, on our administrator, our staff. A lot of people have put a lot of hard work in to try to keep our schools open. Our Campbell County schools have not closed throughout the pandemic. We've had some classrooms that were closed for a brief period of time, but we got those kids, those teachers back in. So I commend Dr. Johnson and his staff for doing an outstanding job in keeping our schools open. We've done a lot better job than a lot of other areas in that regard. So, library materials. This is another one I've heard on the radio as well, and I can't say I'm not concerned about that, and we'll take a look at that. But there will be some things in books and libraries that's not appropriate for some students and appropriate for other age levels, and we try to make sure those books are at the appropriate schools and not at schools where they're not appropriate. But again, it's kind of something I heard on the radio over the past week or so, and we can take a look at that. I'm not saying we have that problem in Campbell County. I think whoever brought this up mentioned Virginia public schools, but I'm not sure we have anything like that in our Campbell County schools, but we can definitely take a look into that. So those are some of the highlights, and we are listening to you. We are taking action as appropriate. It may take a little longer than some people care for. My apologies for that. My apologies for the formalness of the meeting. I know some folks like to have a back and forth, but I think that can quickly derail the meeting and go into, for lack of terms, an argument almost. And we don't hear each other that way. We listen to you guys when you sign up for the meetings. You get my undivided attention for the 3 minutes. I apologize for the 3 minutes, but we had 18 speakers on the agenda tonight. And if we give everybody free rein, you will not hear everybody because we'll listen to the first 15 or 20, and then people are going to start filing out. So we do have to have a time limit, unfortunately. So speaking of time limits, I've rambled on long enough. I appreciate your patience. But that's my feedback for this evening. So thank you for coming out tonight. Next on the agenda, we do have a closed session matter to discuss. So I would ask for a motion to recess into closed session, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we convene in a closed meeting for discussion or consideration of disciplinary matters or other matters that would involve the disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record concerning students in the school division, specifically student number 14 from the 2021-2022 school year, in accordance with Section 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor to adjourn into a closed meeting. So we'll take a 5-minute recess, have a closed meeting, and then reconvene after we discuss those matters. Okay. As for a motion to reconvene back into open session.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up is to certify the closed session. As for a motion to certify closed session, certifying that to the best of each member's knowledge that during our closed meeting, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the school board.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Everybody in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the administration's recommendations on student number 14.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. That's all the business matters we had this evening.
Move with adjourn then.
Move to adjourn. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.